Hi, it's Elizabeth. Welcome back to my channel where I'm looking at myself in my camera and going, highlighter on the nose works, winner. Well, I think it does anyway, but maybe put a bit too much there. Watching too many Jamie Genevieve videos again. I've got her Skin Nova on today and I look and feel really good for 53. Yeah, I'm just going to say it because it's a nice thing to be able to say about yourself after you've been beating yourself up for years going, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. I do feel a little bit more confident about myself. Anyway, the reason for this video is, you might have noticed it, as well as being bombarded with all the join this gym, do this, do that. And you have my permission to not do any of those things because it's January and everybody knows January is a dry run. And the real show starts in February when we're coming up to spring. That's when to really start thinking, okay, I'm coming out of my cocoon. What do I want it to look like as the days get longer? And that could be everything from your work life to your home life to just anything. Please don't feel pressured to make any changes to yourself or make any big wild promises that you're not going to be able to keep up and then beat yourself up for afterwards, which I'm talking from experience here, has happened in the past. So, as well as all the gym memberships and everything else, you may have noticed that there's an awful lot of chat about glucose, isn't there? Glucose, sugar, glucose spikes, all relevant. This is my book I wrote in lockdown. Shameless plug, I know. I wrote this in 2022. The Modern Menopauser. I'll put the Amazon link up on it. This is not a tome. It's only 56 pages long. The reason that I made it only 56 pages long was I was trying to condense all the information. I could have spoken and typed for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours about it. But at the end of the day, if you've got a huge tome of a book about menopause or how to look after yourself when you're 40 plus postage and packing, it's just going to sit by the side of your bed, not doing an awful lot, or on your coffee table, because all you do is flick through it and go, where's the answer? Where's the answer? Where's the magic answer? And there's no magic answer because everybody's different. Some people will get glucose spikes off certain types of food, others won't. I'm going to put my glasses on and read an excerpt from what I wrote. So it's about 10 pages in, triggers and what can amplify the symptoms. And this is my experience. I guarantee if you're suffering from hot flushes or panic attacks, there will be triggers that set them off. Notice what you notice. And this is a really good idea. It's why it's always great to keep a health diary. And every single day, I ate this and this is how I felt afterwards. I drank this and this is how I felt afterwards. For me, this is me reading from the book again, my triggers are tea, not coffee, funnily enough, white wine, not red wine, any foods with a high GI index. GI stands for glycemic index, so it's anything that makes your blood sugars go and go through the roof. White potatoes, white bread, white pasta, anything that gives you an insulin spike. So yes, you read that right. If you don't know where I'm going, that's other things that set me off. If I don't know where I'm going in the car and not being familiar with a neighbourhood, that's another thing that sets me off with stressful levels. All hail the sat nav. So anyway, but back to the food issue. Yes. Now, the reason that I found out about the whole glycemic, or rather I put two and two together with the baffling symptoms about the glycemic index and the sugar load, the sugar spike that you can get, was one, I was talking to a bodybuilder, and I am not familiar with the protocols of bodybuilding and the things that you do to adjust your diet, etc. Pre-competition, 2 weeks out, 2 days out, etc., etc. But I do know that at some point, when they've been stripping back all their body fat, they then go on to do what they call double carbing. And the double carbing meant that this person in particular starts suffering really bad night sweats. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Say that again? She was like, yeah, carbohydrates were giving me a glucose spike, but I needed that because I'm trying to bulk up for this competition. She was what they called a bikini competitor. So very brave thing to do. They go up on stage and they show off their muscle mass. But she did this process called double carbing that made her get these nighttime sweats. And I was like, oh, wow, could I be onto something here? And then the other way that I found out was I was at a party. A good friend, Chris, it was his birthday, and he hired out a bar in Glasgow, and they had little mini bites that they were serving, little potato wedges and mini burgers and things like that. And I was enjoying that. But at the same time, maybe about 20 minutes later, I was so glad I was wearing a navy boiler suit because nobody could tell that I was absolutely drenched in sweat. And it was like, hang on a minute. So it was that conversation, and then going to the birthday party and munching on the carbohydrates really started to make me think that's a trigger food. That is a trigger food. So the reason that I'm excited about this is because when you know better, you do better. So now I know that foods that can give me a glycemic index or a big insulin spike, because I've just found out I'm insulin resistant. That's another video. You can do something about it and you can manage it. Now, this is another book, The Food Medic, written by a doctor, Hazel Wallace. Yeah, Dr. Hazel Wallace. She mentions glycemic index as well being a factor because, well, her book's called The Female Factor. But she's only really speaking about it with regards to watching out for it as a trigger for polycystic ovaries. Now, I don't have that and I don't have endometriosis. But this could be a book that you might want to borrow off me if you're a client and you live in Glasgow. You're very welcome to come pick it up because I realise it's a big investment. But again, she's mentioning the insulin spike and the glycemic index in this. And then this one was introduced to me by a good friend, Claire, who owns the Hermana skin brand, the Glucose Goddess. And this person, that I can't pronounce her name, but that's it there. She is the Glucose Goddess her book's called The Glucose Revolution, I beg your pardon. But on Instagram, she's called the Glucose Goddess. Now, to try and sum up what the Glucose Goddess says, so let's say I'm absolutely starving. I'm Hank Marvin. I'm just in from work. What kind of food am I going to reach for? Historically, I'm going to go for bread. Historically, I'm going to go for a sandwich. What happens? Here's my baseline. Let's say, what happens if I go for the carbohydrate? When I'm hungry and my body needs fuel and it gets the carbohydrate, boom, the glucose spike happens maybe about 20 minutes or so after eating, and then over the next couple of hours it slowly tapers down. Let's say when I come home and I'm starving, but instead of reaching for the bread, I reach for, I'm sorry if you're hearing noise above me, I've got upstairs neighbours and the soundproofing here is not great. I'll continue. So let's say I get home from work and I, instead of reaching for carbohydrates, reach for a green salad and then have a sandwich afterwards. The glucose is going to come to here and then taper. Huge difference. So instead of going carbohydrates, my body's hungry, boom, and then coming all the way back down, have a green salad and then have a sandwich, and it's only coming up to maybe about a quarter or half the way. So that's what I've been doing all week. I'm going to give it obviously till the end of the month, and then I'll report back on what my findings are. But let's just say, without going into too much detail and putting any pressure on you, that I stood on the scales and it was like, ooh, I thought I was this weight and I was not. So I will share what the difference was at the end of the month. But here's the big thing, right? I was having a chat with my mum yesterday about this because I was telling her, hey mum, I thought I was this weight and I weighed myself and I was actually this weight. But I've got really good mental health. I'm not crying. I'm not beating myself up. I'm not in that horrible, horrible place that I was when I was 42, 43, perimenopausal, didn't know what was happening to me. I've got really good mental health. I feel good about myself anyway. It's just that I'm picking up some of my clothes and trying them on and going, ooh, I need to buy bigger jeans. So, why am I doing it? I'm doing it for overall health. I'm doing it because it's going to make me feel even better than I do now. I'm doing it because I know of things that as a female run in my family, like osteoporosis, like unfortunately diverticulitis, like other issues in the abdominal area that I don't know. I've never been genomed. So genomed means that somebody takes your blood and goes through all your 23 chromosomes that are in it, and they can actually tell what conditions you could be predisposed to. I've never done that. I've never needed to. But that's why I'm concentrating on glucose. I knew I was onto something when, all those years ago, I realised after eating anything carbohydrate, it was just making me feel worse, and the bloating and everything else that went along with it. So, I've got control of it before. I must admit, over the last year, pandemic, watching the news, stressful situations. Yeah, I've just been going to Greg's too often. Love a Belgian bun. Who doesn't? But yeah, it's time to rein it in. No, it really is time to rein it in. Anyway, but so just to mention again, here's my book. It's like having a podcast in your pocket. I'd be incredibly grateful if you bought it and left a review on Amazon. But also, do follow this lady here who wrote this Glucose Revolution, the Glucose Goddess, because she's so clever. It's just such an eye opener to realize how your body could possibly be reacting to food. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I never do these scripted. I have an idea of what I'm going to speak about, and then I could go off piste a few times. So I hope you've managed to keep up. And if there's any questions that you want to ask me, then please do leave them in the comments, and I will do my very best to reply to all of them. But enjoy your day. Bye.